His name means Little Granny. Kids gave him that nickname on a playground in Mindelo, a coastal city on a tiny island off the coast of West Africa, because whenever they beat him, they said he'd go running home to cry to his grandparents. He kept the nickname. He kept showing up. And on June 15, 2026, 40 years old, in a stadium in Atlanta, in front of the entire world, Josimar José Évora Dias, Vozinha, made every single person who ever doubted him wish they had never opened their mouth. This is not a feel-good story. This is something far more dangerous than that. This is what happens when a man refuses to accept the number the world assigned to him. Let's start with the number, 50,000 euros. That was Vozinha's entire market value entering the 2026 World Cup. Not his weekly wage, not his monthly salary, his total worth as assigned by the football industry after 19 years of professional football. Now, let's put that number in context. Spain's squad that walked onto that same pitch was valued at 800 million euros. Their starting striker alone, 180 million euros. Their kit man earns more per month than football said Vozinha's entire career was worth. 50,000 euros. That is the number the system decided on. After Angola, after Moldova, after Cyprus, after Slovakia, after every training session, in every forgotten stadium, in every league that the football world pretends doesn't exist. 19 years of showing up, and the answer the industry gave him was 50,000 euros. Most men would accept that number and go home quietly. Vozinha had other plans. To understand what June 15th meant, you have to go back to where it all started. Vozinha was born in Mindelo, Cape Verde, a town of 70,000 people on the island of São Vicente, off the coast of West Africa, ESPN. His father wanted to name him Valdano, after the Argentine striker Jorge Valdano of Real Madrid. The authorities wouldn't allow it, so he became Josimar instead. And on the streets and pitches of Mindelo, he became something else entirely. Vozinha, Little Granny. The nickname came from older kids who would beat him on the football field and laugh, saying he was going home to complain to his grandparents. He took the taunt, absorbed it, and then spent the next 3 decades turning it into something those same kids could never have imagined. Goal corner. But here's the part nobody tells you about Vozinha's childhood. As a kid, he was one of the best keepers on his island, but he was small. Though I was the best, I didn't get picked in trials because of my height, he told FIFA in 2024. Today.com. Rejected, not for effort, not for talent, for height. This was the first time a system put a ceiling on him. It would not be the last. He grew up being raised by his grandparents, 2 people who believed in him when every scout, every trial, every number said they shouldn't. 2 people who became everything to him. Remember that, because it matters later in this story in a way that will break you. Vozinha didn't even turn professional until the age of 25, the same year Spain star Lamine Yamal was born, making his debut for obscure local side Batuque in 2007, ESPN. Let that land for a second. The boy he would one day face at a World Cup, Lamine Yamal, was taking his first steps on earth the same year Vozinha was taking his first steps in professional football. From there, the journey was not glamorous. Angola, then Moldova, then Cyprus, then Slovakia, then Portugal's second division, not the top league, the league below the league anyone watches, ESPN. At every single stop, he was the reliable one, the professional, the keeper who showed up at 6 a.m., trained harder than anyone, and never complained. But reliability in small leagues doesn't build market value. It doesn't attract agents. It doesn't generate transfer fees. He has won a single trophy in his career, the 2018-19 Cypriot Cup with IL Limassol. 1 trophy, 1 piece of silverware across 2 decades of work, NPR. And still, the football world shrugged. Still, the number stayed at 50,000 euros. And here is the thing nobody says out loud about men like Vozinha. They don't quit, not because the rewards are coming, but because quitting feels worse than the silence. He said it himself. There were moments he thought about walking away from the national team entirely, moments where the dream felt too far away to keep chasing. "I thought about leaving," he said, "that I continued because of this dream." NPR. 19 years of continuing because of a dream. Most people abandon dreams in 19 days. June 15th, 2026. World Cup Group H. Atlanta Stadium. Cape Verde versus Spain. On paper, not even a contest. Spain ranked second in the world. Cape Verde ranked 67th. Newsweek. Spain's squad, 800 million euros. Vozinha's market value, 50,000 euros. Spain dominated high up the pitch and executed more than a dozen key passes that led to shots on goal. The passing maps show clusters of Spain's dominance right in front of the net. According to data scientists at Northeastern University, Spain should have won by a wide margin, Northeastern Global News. But football is not played on paper. It is played in 90 minutes of sweat and chaos and courage, where market value means absolutely nothing once the whistle blows. From the very first minute, Spain came forward, wave after wave, shot after shot. 27 shots total, 7 on target. Lamine Yamal came off the bench, Nico Williams, the full arsenal of European champions, and none of them could find a way past him. A diving stop, a reflex block at point-blank range, a magnificent early denial of Pedri. Efforts from range smothered with something that looked almost casual, but was anything but. Save after save after save. Ferran Torres, Pedri, Aymeric Laporte, each one denied, each one sent away empty-handed by a 40-year-old goalkeeper from an island most of them could not find on a map. The crowd grew restless. Spain's players looked at each other with that expression, the one elite teams get when they realize the universe has decided tonight is not their night. And then the final whistle. 0-0. Cape Verde had just won its first ever World Cup point in its very first World Cup match against the second-ranked team on the planet. The 50,000 euro goalkeeper had just shut out an 800 million euro squad. Player of the match, officially, unanimously, undeniably. Now here is the moment that broke the internet. Not the saves, not the clean sheet, not even the award. As the final whistle blew, Vozinha hunched over near his net and cried. Not from joy, or not just from joy, from something far deeper than a football result. I cried because I grew up with my grandparents, and unfortunately they were not here. They died a few years ago. They were everything for me, for my life. The two people who raised him, the two people who believed in him when height charts and trial scouts said no, the two people who let a small boy keep a nickname that should have hurt and turned it into something he wore with pride. They never got to see this night. And then he said something that stopped the world completely. My mom didn't manage to be here because of the visa. Because of the money we had to pay for the visa, we didn't manage to get it done on time. I would like her to be here. By the time Vozinha finished that post-match interview, the internet had already made its decision. A Brazilian broadcaster began encouraging viewers to follow Vozinha on Instagram. The impact was meteoric. His 46,000-strong following swelled to 1 million within minutes of the match ending. And it did not stop there. By the time of publication, Vozinha had over 9.7 million followers and growing. By Thursday, 13.7 million. From 50,000 to nearly 14 million in less than 72 hours. That is not fame. That is not virality. That is the entire planet collectively deciding that this man's story was too important to scroll past. Paul Pogba posted about him, and through all of it, Vozinha stayed Vozinha. Despite being mobbed at training by fans seeking selfies, he said he was limiting his time on social media. I've always been a focused person. Of course, it's not easy to manage all of this, but I try not to get too involved, because I am here because of the national team, because of football, because of the World Cup. It's a dream I've had since childhood, and now I'm living it. 40 years old, 13 million followers overnight, the entire planet watching, and his focus was still the next game. His teammate Steven Moretta called him a big legend who showed age doesn't matter. Defender Pico Lopes said, "He lives and breathes Cape Verde. He's always on us to keep us on time. He pushes us to be better." His teammate Steven Moretta called him a big legend who showed age doesn't matter. Defender Pico Lopes said, "He lives and breathes Cape Verde. He's always on us to keep us on time. He pushes us to be better." This is the thing nobody talks about when they talk about overnight success. The overnight part is visible. The 19 years before it? Invisible. The Angola games nobody watched? Invisible. The Moldova winters? Invisible. The Cyprus contract nobody celebrated? Invisible. The Slovakia training sessions at 6 a.m.? Invisible. All of it invisible, until one night in Atlanta made it impossible to ignore. After the game, he said, "I would tell 18-year-old Vozinha to be really proud of himself. I have worked my whole life for this moment. I'm 40 years old. I started playing football professionally when I was 25. I thought about leaving, but I continued because of this dream. This is for everyone." He started professionally at 25. At 40, he stood in a World Cup. 15 years of continuing because of the dream, with zero guarantee the dream was ever coming. And here is the part the original story missed. This was not just about Vozinha. Cape Verde, population 529,000, one of the smallest countries to ever qualify for a World Cup, a nation that had never before stood on the stage. Generations of Cape Verdean footballers who dreamed of this moment and never got there. Vozinha carried them too. Every footballer from Mindelo who was told they were too small, every goalkeeper from São Vicente who was never scouted, every Cape Verdean child watching on a television screen at midnight, seeing their flag behind a man. His name is Josimar José Évora Dias. The world calls him Vozinha. Football valued him at $50,000 after 19 years of service. He smiled, he trained, he showed up. And on June 15, 2026, he stood between the posts in Atlanta, faced the second-best team on the planet, and for 90 minutes, he was simply untouchable. Not because the system finally recognized him, because he never needed it to. His grandparents couldn't be there, but they raised the man who was. His mother couldn't afford the visa, but the world made sure she got there anyway. And somewhere in Mindelo right now, children are playing football in the streets, hearing a name that once made a boy run home crying, and now it sounds like legend. Vozinha.